Let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about it. No, that's your phrase. You got to say it. You got to hit it because I got that. I got that
Let's
from you.
talk
I
about
always
it.
hear you in my head. All right,
Mars is
boom,
conjunct
boom.
Pluto. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Listen, we just spent like 15 minutes backstage, and we were like, "Man, I'm sorry, but the people gotta wait for this live because we were like, let's talk about it." Um, there's a lot of emotional pressure. Aquarius is that energy as a masculine presence, a divine masculine presence that can hold and become in a container for the emotional chaos in the world. And so we kind of were just talking about different fear porns, right? Like just like almost like an excessive emotional masturbation on the world as for here's what are the emotions we need to allow people to feel sorrow, um, rage, just these really overt and excessive emotions are being pumped into the world right now. And Andre and I were just talking backstage, and so I feel like he has a lot like that's even on his chest that I feel like he can contribute to what are we feeling collectively speaking with this Mars conjunct Pluto. Talk about it.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, it's very difficult to be directly confronted with the dragon, the dark underbelly, the plutonic, like seedy, dark underworld of brutality and aggression and
Mm-hmm.
anger and this fear. And that's Mars and that's Pluto too. Right down to the screams, the cries of desperation. It is. I'm referencing what happened in Rafa, and
What's
to
Rafa? Because I don't think everybody knows.
yes, Rafa is a city in Palestine where millions of, well, I think about 1.7 million people to be exact, of 1.7 million displaced Palestinians were corralled, and they had nowhere to go. They were defenseless. They were civilians. There were women and children and elderly
Mm-hmm.
people, people of all kinds, cornered in this very small city in Palestine, which is already very, very small.
Right.
The Strip of Gaza is already very small. It's 25 miles long and one of the most densely populated places in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to witness the brutality of that was just it was a lot for me. I did cry. Um, I wept, and it felt so hollow and empty uh, to be confronted with this brutality and this show of I should say, or lack of humanity and empathy,
Mm-hmm.
and to also
Yep.
like have it happen while like here in the United States the Super Bowl was happening. It just seemed like this very surreal thing, and it was enraging. And you know that is something that made me have to be present and be like, I am witnessing a televised massacre.
Massacre.
It's not
Massacre.
it's
Massacre.
not all televised, but it is. I am witnessing in real time like this cold, well, not cold, but this hot, angry brutality.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems to completely lack empathy, and it's very hard to see. And I realize that I think that so many of us are feeling that collective rage, and that plutonic titanic force is spreading
Mm-hmm.
Mars everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It makes us want to advocate for, because that's what Mars is also. It's advocacy.
Mm.
Advocate against senseless, needless brutality.
Sure.
And I guess we've all been trying to do that in our own way, but I mean, like, we're it feels almost like you're up against this titanic monster sometimes. Like,
Right.
what can you do?
Right.
What can you fucking do? Pardon my
Sure.
language. Um,
It is what it is.
but that feeling, that rage, and
Mm.
finding a way to express that through catharsis too. That need to feel those emotions and cry and be and feel for our brothers and sisters
And
of
so let me let
humanity.
me let me hit it. Let me hit you with a pause right there, and then keep that thought though.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking while he's talking, what are the remedies for these energetic upheavals? And I don't know a better one right now than what he just said, which is to cry. And I feel especially men, especially men. I feel like in a way, like the feminine gender has been holding tears for both genders for a very, very long time. And I feel like we're at a point where, again, with this Aquarius energy, a masculine energy, men are at the point where we need to support in our own way and allow ourselves to cry, to pray, to release the tears, to release the energy. And I just said this myself like 2-3 days ago, like, I mean, like weeping, like snot, couldn't stand up, leaning on the wall, just crying, like rivers and rivers and rivers, screaming, just weird noises. I think I started talking in a completely different language at a point that I didn't recognize. I didn't need to. And it just got to the point where I feel like I found myself on the ground, and I just kept repeating, like, God loves me. God loves us. God loves me. God loves us. God loves me. God loves us. And it's the only voice I kept hearing in my head when I just felt like I couldn't go anymore. I couldn't go any further. And, you know, we kind of were talking about this backstage with this Conjunct Pluto. This is the energy where I really feel like I'm feeling males more than anything. Males are at this point, this critical point where we must allow ourselves to feel safe, to cry, to weep, to pour out. Because I feel like from a social standpoint, there is an anxiety to the masculine presence in the world being even allowed to cry, right? Like men don't cry. And it's like, yeah, well, we know that's not true, right? And it's like, I feel like it's time to normalize that not only is it okay, but it's healthy and it's necessary for men to cry, and even to just admit it, number one. Kind of like what I'm trying to do right here. Andrew just said earlier he cried. I'm telling you 2 days ago I cried. And what I'm telling you is like, this is the kind of pressure that fixed energies, right? Just being internally focused and concentrated with Aquarian humanitarian issues, right? Pressure, weight, like inconceivable. Understand that, again, we talked in the first part one of this, that Aquarius is an inconceivable presence of God.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Very lofty in its ideals and understanding. Like, it's an inconceivable pressure where we cannot maintain this pressure in this little feeble human body. One of the main remedies I'm seeing is allow ourselves to cry. And I'm telling you, like, I'm not somebody that if I'm being honest, I struggle to cry as much as I feel like I could benefit from.
Yeah.
That's the truth. But when I start looking and tracking back down the roots, like, I can kind of hear voices, even when I was a child, like, stop crying. Like, literally, right? Like, as a male, just stop crying. Like, no explanation, no rationale, right? But now I'm a child, I'm a baby, or whatever it is, stop crying. And it's like, okay, somewhere within that kind of got embedded into me. And I'm like, wow, like, but at the end of the day, I'm a highly sensitive person.
Yeah.
Right? And like, you're a Pisces rising, I'm sure you kind of resonate. I'm a highly sensitive person. So it's like, well, if I have this much pressure, what am I supposed? I can't always box, right? I can't always exercise to high intensity. And this is kind of what has been happening. Life has been taking away high intensity exercise. I love basketball. Life was like too much yang, too much masculine exertion. Take some weeks off. Okay, took some weeks off. I love boxing. I love Muay Thai. I love martial arts. Yes, but too much. Okay, fine. Focus more on the yin, the feminine expression. Go more Tai Chi. Go more Qigong. Still a martial art in a form, but calmer, more flow. Right.
Internal martial arts.
The internal martial art. You feel me? And so over months, my body has been like shifting me since the winter solstice, and even before that, to go to these softer, more delicate feminine things. Why? Because more writing. Why? That's another yin. These are different forms of shadow work during this Mars conjunct Pluto, that with this much pressure, right now, there's enough masculine pressure already. And so in order to actually receive, I remember I actually put on this particular, amethyst. on my air today, because I know the moon is in Taurus, conjunct Jupiter in Taurus. Again, two feminine zodiac signs, Taurus. And it was like, okay, we have the ability right now to receive the message from Taurus energy, the spiritual wisdom from Jupiter and Taurus, right? The receptive and feminine touch from the moon and Taurus, of how can we, Andre, how can Andre and I stabilize? No, it's not okay, because your name is your name. And that's just my personal, I want to get it right. Andre and I, how can we stabilize the people? What can we do to come out here? So one of them, we're going to give the forecast today for Libra to Pisces. That's one thing, right? We're going to give and so if you haven't seen it, the written forecast to come out, and I took it from Andre's words and mine, and I kind of put them in a written forecast. So if you're on the email list, you'll see that right here. If not, it's free to get on the email list. So writing, and I've been feeling this incessant pressure. I was like, man, I want to write. I need to write today. I need to write. Something wants to come out, right? So I need to write today. Today is the day, like in between my lives, I'm going to journal. Cry, journal, qigong, tai chi, slow it down. I've been taking more time to just sit with no phone, no TV. There's a corner in my house. I have a chair. I moved the chair to a new spot, and it's nice and light, and I got plants on both sides of me, and I just started sitting there. And every once in a while I sit and I close my eyes. I'm not even taking a nap. I just kind of close my eyes and I just sit. And I was just like, wow, like I kind of needed just to process, because there's a lot of going on right now. Like there's so much. I'm like, there's so much happening. Right? Like I kind of, you see my neck, like I felt the pressure, like I'm like, it's in my neck. I'm like, that's Taurus again, right? And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stuff happening. Like the crooked neck dude right now. So wow. Do understand there's pressure. Don't pretend there's not. Don't pretend there's not pressure. That is not going to be helpful. Yeah. But Andre, what you feeling?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. That's beautifully said. To go along with that train of thought, Mars and Pluto both have this beautiful ability to make us to take the gunk and the grime and put it right up to us. Be like, look at this. Look at it. What do you feel about it? And Mars wants us to feel, I think Mars in particular wants us to feel righteous anger. And righteous anger to a point, not necessarily like just to be angry all the time, because that's not good for your nervous system, obviously. But the fiery burning passion of like seeing this injustice, because Mars and Venus are opposites. So like Venus enjoys to have things level and see the justice and the beauty and everything, and Mars exists to point out injustice and be like, hey, what is that? What is that? What is happening right now? And do something about it. And we may not be able to stand up and do something about it in like a titanic, huge, large scale way, but we all have influence, a sphere of influence in our own life. How can we? And that's what Mars and Pluto want us to do. They want us to get up, and like Mars stuff knocks us down a lot, but it asks us to get up and continue and have the courage and the passion and the fire to have this internal flame and continue onward. And I really feel that, really be all the way in there and just really have that work through you. So catharsis, but also seeing injustice and having the passion to get up and do something about it in your own way. And like you said, Pernell, it doesn't have to be this huge thing. You can cry, you can journal, you can write, you can sit and be in a quiet space in a corner, recharge. Yes, feel those things, but recharge and remember that there needs to be something done to cut out what is no longer needed, to excrete the waste, to get it out of you.
So what's the thing during this conjunction with the mindset that we're moving towards the next one of Venus conjuncting Pluto, right?
Oh
What's
yeah.
the next thing that what do you feel we need to cut out? What will the world benefit from? What will society benefit from
Mm,
as for cutting out X and disinfecting X?
mm. I think we really, really need. Pluto has put us into contact with the unconscious material of Mars. So we really have to see what is going on with our Martian images, how we might be misunderstanding them, how we might be. It's making us examine the poisonousness of our Mars archetype and how we connect to Mars
Mm.
as an entity, as a
Mm-hmm.
some would say as a deity.
Mm.
Um, it's a whole nother thing that I'm sure that we'll talk about at some point.
I'm about it.
Me too. But how do we connect to Mars? How do we misdirectionalize our anger and
Ooh.
our need to conquer, our need to
Mm-hmm.
dominate, our
Mm-hmm.
need to are we do we bulldoze over others? Do we Are we too arrogant, too tyrannical, too just flat out angry?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why? Where does it come from? Does it
I
come
think not
from?
having enough. I feel like not having enough outlets.
Yeah.
And if I
Oh
think
yeah.
Aquarius, like predetermined, right?
Oh.
So I was looking and like Mars runs for Aquarius. Mars is the ruler of the third and the 10th house,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
so the third house, if we had that you said in part one, we had that junk drawer,
Yeah. The
right? We have
third
that
house.
junk drawer, third house.
Yeah.
So what's the junk drawer of our outlets?
Mm,
And can we
oh.
just open that junk drawer for all these outlets of anger and
Mhm.
be like, oh, okay, I have 35 outlets right here. I can write because it's very cathartic. I can do my breath work. I can hold my breath underwater. And underwater, I no longer hear the noise of everybody. And
Mhm.
water is making me more receptive to hearing God's message,
Mhm.
right? To receiving God's idea under the water. Okay, that's another one in my junk drawer,
Mhm.
right? Oh, in my junk drawer, I have when I'm angry during this particular transit, I can massage my calves
Mm.
with essential oil. Which one for Aquarius? Good question. Let me look at my junk drawer. Oh, it's lavender. Okay, lavender can calm the nerves.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Oh, Aquarius is the circulatory system. Okay, this is in my junk drawer. All right, let me drink some tea. What tea is calming? Okay, maybe some arnica, right?
Mm.
Maybe some tila tea in Mexico, right? Maybe some chamomile. Okay, this can calm down my lungs and this nervous system and the circulatory system so that my mind can settle its thoughts.
Mhm.
So I feel that's a huge one, right? Like Mars running the third house for Aquarius. What's this junk drawer of ideas? And then if I add the 10th house piece, this I always think 10th house is life system, not simply career. Career is one part of our life, but our
Sure.
life system, right?
Oh
There's
yeah.
the entire method to living life
A
for
practice.
myself, right?
I love
So those
that.
are just some of the things came to mind.
And that's so beautiful. To your point, like Aquarius being the circulatory system,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's a Saturnian sign, and Saturn, even though it presents us with these extremely like heavy, pressureful um, themes. It
Mm-hmm.
wants us to sit down and breathe and slow down and breathe. Aquarius really, I mean, air signs in general. I guess I guess everything can be tied into this, but Aquarius really has a way of showing us what it means to be human and have a
Mm-hmm.
brain and use
Mm-hmm.
the brain and directionalize the brain, and makes us examine how we interpret the data that we're being given, that we're being
Mm-hmm.
fed,
Mm-hmm.
and not just have the data just sweep us away. Aquarius is the water bearer, so he's holding the water at an objective distance away, the water of the emotions and the subconscious, and the inner and the internal and the subjective, holding them at an
Mm-hmm.
objective distance away, looking at them, pouring them out, directionalizing them, and examining them.
Mm-hmm.
Aquarius is a scientist, so he wants us to examine not just the outside, but our own internal working. And yeah, Aquarius is very lofty and it can get very lost out there. But being a Saturnian sign, I feel like Saturn in general. just wants us to sit down and breathe and circulate and remember what it means to have these thoughts, to be able to and
Mm-hmm.
not get lost in the anger and and the um, the aggression and the tyranny, and take an objective distance away. Try to, at
Right.
least, for the people that can. Obviously, there are people who cannot, and that's
Those are the
horrendous.
ones looking for leaders. That's the ones.
Exactly.
Those are the ones looking for leadership.
Hmm.
Those are the ones that's looking for the group, Aquarius, right? That's looking for
Yes.
the tribe to say, hey, look, you know what? I may not be able at this point in my life to actually host and run a group, run a membership, run and organize an entire organization, but I have individual and unique gifts that I can use to contribute to the group.
Yeah.
I can contribute to the organization. I can
I love
contribute to
that.
the membership, right? And so this is where, as a humanity, as a society, we all have our roles.
Yes.
And now this is why I feel like the moon conjuncting today, the moon in Taurus conjuncting Jupiter in Taurus, I feel like this is about the spiritual wisdom is what's your natural talent that you have to offer to people? The people being the moon. The spiritual wisdom is, hey, look, I'm the spiritual advisor here, Jupiter. And my advice is you have a talent, one only that is innate to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were born with this, and through method, through practice, right? Through rituals and routines of this habit of practicing your talent, eventually you'll get to Gemini, Jupiter, Gemini, whatever else, where you can start speaking that out to other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're solidifying that right now, where you can then push it out to the people. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at, where it's like, okay, it makes me want to like just let people know again, like about this, because this is what this is about. Like when I look at my own chart, one of the things I realized is just kind of the way my Chiron is set up. One of the things I'm here and I was reincarnated to do is to train spiritual warriors, period. Like to line up people like Chiron and teach them again my Pisces past life. And that's the simplicity. My Pisces is a lot of my past life is Piscean, and it's just like all the way out in the Akashic ocean, right? Right. And I don't even want to say out because it's right here, right? Like it's not really out. It's here, it's in, it's out, it's out, it's in. It's nothing, it's everything. So it's like to train those people on, hey, look, these are the spiritual principles. Okay, now Virgo, what I'm here to do, bring it back. You said it before, taking the incorporeal and bringing it into the corporeal, right? Taking incorporeal, bringing it into the corporeal. So I kind of want to like, before we get into the forecast, let y'all know, this is one of the reasons why, like starting the spring equinox, the early bird is over soon. You see it on the 23rd. Starting the spring equinox, these are one of the things we're doing. This is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about trying to help other entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs, like full time. I'm not talking about like part time. I'm talking about like full time. Leave your job, leave your whatever, go whatever country you want to go, live it. Because I know if you're really the spiritual being that I feel like you are, if you're watching this channel, you're definitely not somebody that's stuck in the earthly mundane reality, because that's not who I am, right? Exactly. Then watch this, and we're coming back. We're going to give these forecasts for Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, all the way up to Pisces. All right. And we'll let Andre and myself take a breath. Enjoy it. We will see you in a moment. All right, ladies and gents. So I'm now bringing up, and we're timestamped this at 24 on the dot. We have Libra. You see on the top. So enjoy that. Beyond that, obviously the registration is free. The reason is so that you can fill out the survey, and then we understand better how we're gonna serve you, just the people that's in the actual sacred reality. All right, specifically for aspiring entrepreneurs. So we have Libra come as 24 second. Libra, you're going through this Mars conjunct Pluto, a 5th house transit. Okay, now the ruler of Mars is your 7th and your 2nd. And then to finish that off, Pluto is ruling your 2nd. I forgot to put that up on screen, but you'll get the point. Pluto is ruling your 2nd. So, Andre, from Hermits Path Astrology. Check out his Instagram. What do you have for us to give as for feedback on Libra?
So, my dear Libra risings, I feel like some pressure. I feel like that zit, if you will, is kind of forming, coming to a head in your fifth house. Your fifth house of children, pregnancy, also romance, lovemaking, expression. Um, this procreation, this creativity, pleasure, gifts, pleasantness, just finer things, but that really, it's the fifth house is the joy of Venus, so it is that Venusian pleasure. So that experience of love, that experience of romance, that experience of connection, of union, of reconciliation, of harmony and unity is really, you're really experiencing a lot of pressure with that, I think, right now. And that might be coming from your relationships, how you relate to others in general. And also the second house, your special skills, your it's not just your material resources, it is your material resources, but also your own resources, your internal resources, your special skills. When I was talking about skills that we all individually bring to the table, the second house has a way of showing us that. So, how you individually might show up, or it might also, yes, very well have to do with your possessions, how you acquire things, how you attract them and bring them in. So that sort of special skills, and also an outline of how you relate to the other, to not just yourself but the other, is kind of asking you to perhaps examine that zit that is forming in your fifth house, and it might feel like it's about to pop, or it already has. So you're being asked to examine the unconscious gunk, perhaps, of what we have in the fifth house, of our romance and love, and how we relate, how we harmonize, how we reconcile, how we connect. And Libra risings, that is, it's a lot, but it's thankfully trying to your ascendant. So hopefully that's a very, it might be intense and cathartic, but I do hope that it is cathartic, and I do hope that you can advocate for the passion of your love, of that connectivity and creativity of the fifth house, and that we can advocate for that pleasure. But we might have to be put into contact with the unconscious material of that fifth house first.
So what do you, out of curiosity, with Libra, what do you feel like this fifth house has as for impact on Libra stepping out of the fourth energy, right, moving into the fifth? And the reason I say that is I've had members who, at least from my perspective, and I want to say that up front, their family is pulling them back into this, it seems like, into this fourth house, not allowing them to really step into the fifth. What would you feel about that for Libras?
Yeah, we all, Libra risings especially, they're very, very aware of what it means to be in relation to someone other than themselves. And for a while, you've been having to deal with that in the place, in the home in the home of home, in the place of family, the place of roots and foundations, and your private life. So you might have been feeling really drawn to examine the unconscious material of where you came from. You might have been put face to face with the poisonousness of of those foundations, but also been asked to disinfect them, and thus be able to step out into not just relating to a relationship at home, but with others in general, romantically, specifically. The fifth house is very, very romantic. Again, it's the joy of Venus. So I hope that that fourth house transit that you've had since 2008 has allowed you to step into a more confident, um, step into a more confident fifth house expression of joy and love and creativity and harmony and making something beautiful, pursuing something beautiful, however we might perceive that. Um, Venus is aesthetics, personal aesthetics, how we perceive beauty. Um, we don't rightly know why we perceive beauty, but for some reason our human brain sees something and was like, wow, that is just so beautiful and
Mm.
harmonized, and it wants us to examine that. So yeah, it might have been very difficult, especially in the fourth house, to have that Pluto transit there. And I hope that it's asked you to, Libra risings, to step out and really create something beautiful. Really look for something beautiful in your life and see the beauty of life in general. But yeah, that fifth house, it's going to be transited over for the next, except for that retrograde, for the next 20 years.
Right.
So,
Long time. You got a long time to figure it out.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that because I had that come yesterday, and I just had some Libra energies hit me up, and they were like, "Yo, I don't think X, Y, Z is for me right now because boom, things keep coming up, and especially with family." And I just felt it a little bit of it, even as I felt it right now. A little bit kind of made me sick to my
Yeah.
stomach, but I also knew that like I
It's
was like,
hard.
look, there's nothing I can say right now. I was
Yeah.
like, I can't say anything right now because I was like, anything I say is like, it's clear like it could be almost more harmful.
Yeah.
But what I felt was, oh God, like let them free, like let them be something they want
Mhm.
to be. Like, stop giving so much resistance, and and like stop I just felt like I wanted to like just like almost like scream for Libras and be like, yo, like
Mhm.
your self note is here for a reason. Like let it go. Like let
Yeah.
that nonsense go, bro.
Wow.
Like choose yourself maybe once
Yeah.
and maybe more than once. Like choose yourself for a full week.
Mm.
For a full week, Libra. I feel like I want to say that. For 7 freaking days, choose yourself every single day. Put
Mhm.
everybody in last place for
Mm.
1 week. Look, I'm seeing 7 people watching this on screen right now. It's 7 days. This is your very channel, simple, clear message. For 7 days, Libra, tell everybody, no, I did this experiment for myself when I was living in Asia. And it was a little easier because I'm living in Asia. I'm really far away from home. I'm in a different time zone, 13 hours ahead of time, right? I'm
Wow.
already waking up. I'm living a whole day, but I'm ready to go to bed before people wake up, right? At least from my area. And for 7 days, I tried this, and I put everybody last. Mom, family, relationship. I was like, no, 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 and just say no to everything. Somebody asks you to go outside, say no.
Yeah.
Somebody asks you to go to the club, say no. Somebody asks you to go to the bookstore, and you want to do that, say no, and then go by yourself.
Mm. Oh my God. Yeah. By
Just say
yourself.
no. Just say no.
Mhm.
Just as an experiment. Even if you
Mhm.
want, and more importantly, even if you want to do it, say no.
Yeah.
Because it takes time to deprogram.
Yes. And that is so necessary for all air signs, really, but especially Libra risings.
Mm-hmm.
Just as they are the sign of relating and
Mm-hmm.
that airy communication and relationships, Libras especially need to develop a relationship with themselves.
Mm. 1000%.
And and that is so vital to be able to show up um healthily in other
Mm-hmm.
relationships with other people. I think I mentioned this last time. I have a Libra stellium, and I legit did what you just said, dude. Like I, I and it wasn't, sometimes it wasn't by choice, but at one point I was like, I'm tired of expecting people to just want to like hang out. I'm gonna go do stuff by myself. I went to restaurants by myself. I went to the movies by myself.
Yep.
And it was, and I kind of get a side eye sometimes because either you go with a girl or you go with your friends.
Right.
But you go by yourself and just enjoy your own company, the relationship with
Uh-huh.
yourself and who you are as a person, Libra
Uh-huh.
risings.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. That's it.
Magic.
Hmm.
All right, Libra. So thank you. I appreciate that from a personal perspective. If you're watching this, definitely hit the thumbs up and the likes button. We're gonna dip into Scorpio, and I kind of updated right here. So Scorpio, you're going through a fourth house transit, which is Mars conjunct Pluto, right?
Mm,
Your ruler is ruling your sixth house and your first. Whoa, hello,
man.
Scorpio risings, and now Pluto is also your first house ruler. Okay, so what do we have for Scorpio rising, Scorpio moons, and during this transit?
Yeah. Yep. So the fourth house, as we mentioned earlier, it is all about the family, the roots, the foundation, where we came from, the private life. Let me find the notes that I made here.
My man got the notes ready. I love it. I love it. I really do. I really do.
It's the Virgo sun.
I get it. I get
um,
it.
yeah, yeah. The parents in general, ancestry, psychological parental influence.
Mm.
That's from Deborah Holding's book on the houses. She's great, but that one really stuck out to me, the psychological influence of the parents and the family on you. That is really going that might be coming to a head, Scorpio risings.
Yeah.
That zip might be forming in that fourth house there, where you might have to look at the gunk of the unconscious material of
Mm.
the roots in the family, the psychological influence of the people in your close proximity, your close, immediate, intimate environment. Having to really look at that. And that is being influenced by your sixth house of the great work of health, of physical habits, of something that you really want to put blood, sweat, and tears and sacrifice into. And that um that's kind of, there's one pressure point there, and then the other pressure point is is who you are as a person.
Yeah.
It is the commander, the, what is it called, the rudder of your boat, kind of like the your own personal dharma, what you're pursuing, how you are showing up as a Scorpio rising in general. What kinds of Scorpio characteristics are we exuding? And Scorpio is, yes, very, very intense. We love that word when we talk about Scorpio and Pluto.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's the Martian fear. It's the ice sculpture being worked on and then having to melt and then having to go away, having to see that part of yourself change. And other people might say die, but death is change. It's not actual death.
Yeah.
Um,
Transmutation.
Transmutation, transformation, alchemization, however you want to describe that,
Yeah.
who you are. So that really is being asked to be examined right now, Scorpio rising friends. And for those who may not know, Scorpio rising, Scorpio in general, it's about security. It's about the walls that might be put up, the armor that might be put up due
Yeah.
to loss, due to the darker, heavier side of life. It's very much so about incision and cutting things out.
Yep.
It rules, we don't, not to be graphic, but it's so fitting for Scorpio. The part of the body that it rules the sphincter. It rules the excretion of waste, the the removal of the waste from the body, not just the sphincter, but also the urinary tract. Just really all about getting all the gunk out of there and just really digging down deep in there
Yep.
and just removing it. So that is very intimately tied with what Scorpio rising is as a person. So all that to say, that is coming to a head in your fourth house of the foundation of the family. So really examining where you might be a little too, where family, or where you and the context of your family might be overly aggressive, because the rule of your ascendant is very intimately tied in this. So you as a person might be showing up in your family setting, in your intimate home life. So yeah, just a little tidbit there.
Yeah. I can tell you, like, I got the goosebumps in my tummy, right? Like, I'm a Scorpio rising, and
Mm,
all the way down from the physiological imbalances showing,
mm,
right? Like, it's huge, it's major. I've
yeah.
been having to drink so much water, and like life like forced me to drink more water and more tea. And I've been realizing, like, where the control has come in, especially I'll even say with home. right? Because like I kind of told you, for like 6-7 years, I've been traveling around the world, and it got to a point where I got tired and I wanted a home base. I wanted somewhere to like, I can really call home. And so only over the last, like, since December, I became a resident in Mexico. So now we're talking fourth house transit, right?
Right.
But it took, like, I feel like I was so controlling over that process. Like, I seen an opportunity to become a resident for the first time in the first country out of 14 plus countries of just traveling, trying to find where can I set roots, where can I plant. And like when it finally came, I feel like I had my grasp on it, and I wanted to kind of control the process so much that my body began to restrict. Literally, my body, whether via constipation, whether like you spoke even urinary tract, like I've been having to like I've been finding like I've been kegeling 24/7.
Wow.
And it's like impossible to maintain, right? But somehow I maintained it. And that has alternate impacts on a negative side. It started creating anxiety. Like I was kegeling nonstop, and I didn't realize like I had to actively focus on releasing my kegel, not realizing that I was retaining and holding my own sexual energies so close, so tight, so intimately dear in my own body that it began to create anxiety, because now it's like, now I find myself having like inconsistency even in my urine from trying to hold and be in control that process so much, willing to literally annihilate anybody that got in the way of that process, because I was like, I must become a resident. And then so now with that inconsistency, I kind of started feeling almost like a dog that pees on everything, right? When a dog pees on it, says, look, I own this. Right? Like I own this. And I found myself like, I'm out in public and I live in a city. I'm like, a little bit of pee on this tree, a little bit of pee on that wall, a little bit of pee in this toilet, a little bit of pee in, right? And it was just like all over the city that I live in Mexico. And that's a really hard thing for me to understand in the moment, because in the moment I'm starting to kind of panic a little bit. I'm like, all right, what the hell's going on, right? Like, but then it kind of came back and I realized, like, hey, Pernell, come back to your roots. What at least is the spiritual side telling me? Okay, I'm marking my territory. Okay, why do you feel you need to mark your territory? Why are you so controlling over this process? And I had to kind of get to the root of, wow, like home meant more to me than I can understand. Hey, right? Like having a home, and I know already for myself, it's gonna be abroad. Having a home meant something to me. And that's when that sixth house ruler kind of was like that pressurized system, right? These fixed energies, the sixth house ruler, it started messing with my mind. If I'm being honest, like my mind, I started like, I never had anxiety like this ever. And I couldn't dissipate it. Like I really struggled. And so what happened, sixth house, so give you a live example, I started doing acupuncture. So now what's acupuncture do? It releases the block chi, the block life force. Because with all that control and my body so restricted, what did I do? Scorpio partly rules the blood, right? So now my blood wasn't transporting the nutrients. What does sixth house do? Transport the nutrients, right? From the stomach down the sphincter, down the small intestines. And so what happened? Now I wasn't getting the nutrients I needed in my body. Also to like level my mind, I couldn't calm the hell down. That's basically what I'm saying. I had so much electricity firing that I maintained a constant kegel for months, right? Which I'm like, how can I physically do that? I didn't even know that was possible. But what I can tell you is there is a positive side to that. There's a lot of nuisance, which I feel like I saw mostly. But sixth house also like a house of gratitude, like bringing ourselves back to, hey, can you be grateful for this great work? Because now it's like, what's happening? I'm now in a bloodline, let's just say, of African Americans setting roots abroad. And I don't know anybody else in my family that has done this. I know part of my family has come from outside the United States to plant us into the US to give opportunity. And now it's like awkwardly, like I'm coming from the US to plant opportunities in a complete different country that we've never been. Right? So this is a generational fourth house, long-term, practice of that fixated emotion and essentially control, right? Like motherly dominant control. But again, kind of what Andre has said as we move to this Sagittarius, how did that control start in the home? How did that control start with the roots, right? What part of this controlling part of my own scorpionic persona as well as like emotional manipulation, how I decided to use what do we do? And like, this is kind of what I learned growing up, right? If I think like, in a sense, single parent family household. And like I said, for me, it's like in a sense, I won't say it's so traditional, but I mostly grew up with my mom while my dad was still supporting 1,000%. We just didn't live, I didn't live with him, but he was supporting 1,000%. So,
Wow.
right. And it's like, how much control does the mom have in such a scenario? And then that's kind of where I started looking at, okay, boom, manipulating this emotional energy got me residency. That even when I got the residency, I couldn't be grateful for the process because I was locked. I was frozen in place of whatever it took for me and what I thought in my mind to make it happen.
Wow. And that is so, I love that because that is so intimately connected to who you are. My the fourth house is one of the anchors, one of the cardinal cross points, or not cardinal, but one of the cross points of the chart. So the first, seventh, fourth, and 10th house are very, very important houses in the chart. They're loudspeakers. The angles are very important, and I think that fourth house for Scorpio risings of the Aquarius rising might have perhaps contributed to the ability for the poker face. That ability to be a little detached in a way, and just kind of like have just like a straight face on, because it was pretty intense. So it might have learned to be guarded by that, very subconscious fourth house Aquarius, like, you know airy, cold detachment. But
Yep.
that might be we might be being asked to examine, Scorpio risings might be being asked to examine that, because there's great reasons to be, to be guarded and to be level, and there's also reasons that they might not work anymore.
Exactly.
That Saturnian thing of I think Saturn rules boundaries, yes, and obstacles, but it also rules very supportive structures. And it also has a way of making us see what structures have become obstacles and barriers. So yeah, Scorpio rising, you're really gonna have to look deep in here for your fourth house roots. I love that, man. And to your point, also being a Jupiter Scorpio myself, having the ruler of my ascendant in Scorpio, I also was a perpetual Kegler all the time, and I am still trying to remind myself to unclench, to let
I
go.
just unclenched in this moment, like not even
Yeah.
to be awkward. Like I just had to
No, no, no.
unclench in this moment. Like
My
it's a conscious thing. Like
it
I've
is.
been having to. I'm like, okay, like I'm literally focusing on send the breath to the private region, send the breath to the perennial, send the breath
Mhm.
to the anus, send the breath to the. I'm like constantly so that I can just release the pressure
Mhm. Yes.
over and over and over. But it's like I also, and like I said, on the opposite side, I feel like it's a miraculous trait because people practice Kegling in order to like strengthen their testosterone,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And now I'm looking at it as like, wow, like we have as like excessive Kegling like monsters, like that sexual energy is so circulated
Oh, yeah.
where it can burst and be utilized in any
Mhm.
direction area. Like when I think about it, moving an entire generation to a different home base outside of my original country, it's like, wow, like
Wow.
that's what it took,
Yeah.
right? Like I may not like if I think my grandma did it and she brought us to the US and it's like, well, who knows? Like that's the pressure that it took.
Yeah.
So I think it has its plus and minus, like everything,
Sure. Sure. Of
right?
course.
And so we'll move into the Sagittarius. All right. I want to say again, thank you, Andre, for so far, like just giving out these forecasts. Definitely go ahead, take a moment to check out his IG. There's 4,000 people on this YouTube channel. Like we could at least get like 100 people on his IG channel. Like why? Because if you love his stuff, and I took votes on the YouTube, and I'm seeing at least 50% says that I love your guest. Right. So take a moment to vote. You probably can't see that unless you're on YouTube itself, but on YouTube, I put a poll up. And it's saying on this live stream that we love your guest, and we think he's a genius. They're saying that. So beyond that, I do appreciate y'all for that.
Thank
We
you guys.
have Scorpio. I'm sorry. Sagittarius,
We're
which
still
I'm
on the
about to
Scorpio
go,
energy, baby.
right?
Yeah.
4955 Sag. Bang. So Sagittarius, we have you now pulling up in the third house on transit, right? Mars, which is in Aquarius, is ruling your fifth house and your 12th house. Okay, great. Now we have Pluto, also that high octave, okay, of intimacy and pure truth, running your 12th house as well of the divine. So what we got for us, Andre?
Yeah. So the third house. I feel bad that I said that it was a junk drawer, because it's in a way it is. In a way it is, but also it's not just the third house is just as important as every other house. It's the joy of the moon. So things that might seem so like mundane, that they seem unimportant, like your general, just like immediate environment and your back and forth like quick journeys, but the moon asks us to see, it asks us to remember and reflect on the how we all are part of the divine, how we are all part of a grander tapestry, and remember that and look past this veil um, of the material world, of the material existence, of corporeal existence, and remember how we are divinely connected and how we are children of the divine. Also, some things that the third house is. So short journeys, brothers and sisters and siblings too. So things like that. You might have some tension going on with your siblings or your brothers and sisters, and your cousins and things like that. It might be coming to a head. But I like to see the third house, uh, not just as the immediate physical environment, which it is, but it is also being the joy of the moon. Again, remember, it is also the immediate mental environment. It is all, even things that we might not be able to see readily. It is configured to the ascendant by sextile, so it's not an aversion, but it's the joy of the moon, in that it's being reflected and illuminated by the light that the moon reflects, which is a counterfeit light, as some would say. It's the light of the sun that's actually being reflected into this lunar place. So it asks us to remember, this is not this physical world is not just all there is. There's something that is illuminating this, and asking us to reflect on that. So that might be there's that aspect of the third house that I really like to touch on, but it's also communications, letters, messages, media, the voice, how we project out what we might receive. So that you might be really experiencing those how shall I say, that karmic zit that we keep talking about, that I keep bringing up, might be coming to a head in the third house. You might have to pop. You might have to look at how you reflect on things, how you communicate, how you receive and give messages. This some kind of very volcanic news that you might receive, and again, this is just immediate right now for the Mars conjunct Pluto transit. It might be very fiery, might be very inflammatory. It might spur you on, prod you on to advocate for something, to fight for something. But this Sagittarius risings is coming from your fifth house. This pressure might be coming from your fifth house of relation, how you relate romantically, how you seek pleasure, how you create pleasure, how you experience pleasure, and that joy and that intimacy. I think the moon and Venus are intimately connected, as it is already, because of the fact that the moon exalts in Taurus, a Venusian ruled sign. So this very important intimacy that the moon and Venus have is, again, I just really feel like we're being asked, as Sagittarius risings, you might be being asked to remember how the divine reflects itself into the mundane, and remember and see the beauty and the truth there, the harmony there, even if it might seem, kind of everyday, not really like super crazy. But that in itself is a beautiful facet of life, that the divine is present at all times. It's not just at this, it's not the ninth. It is the ninth house in a way where you go off on a pilgrimage to find it, but also it's right here, right now,
Right
the
now.
present moment, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So really asking how we might be examining that. Also, it's coming from your 12th house. The pressure is coming from your 12th house. You're of the subconscious, of really those really glaring blind spots, that you might not have thought, you might not have realized were there at first. And then my astrology teacher, Adam Ellenboss, calls the 12th house. He called the 12th house recently a teapot that you might have kind of forgotten was on the stove, and it starts whistling. And you're like, oh my god, I have tea on the stove. I totally forgot that I had tea on the stove. But it's asking you to examine it, because the 12th house is the joy of Saturn, and with Saturn we really.
That's interesting. I never heard that before. 12th house is the joy of Saturn?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It
Why?
is the joy
Why?
of
If you
Saturn.
mind, if you have a little moment.
I do have a moment. Oh, I love talking about Saturn. Yeah. So the 12th house again is the house of, for a little recap, the house of self-undoing, the house of subconscious blind spots, the house of how we might be self-sabotaging ourselves. It is mental suffering. It is mental health. It is mental habits. And when we're working with the subconscious, when we're working with the blind spots, especially those dark places that we might that are hard to see, I really feel like it's a Saturnian wall that we come up against, because it has a way, the 12th house and Saturn in general, of making us see these themes over and over and over and over again, to where and we might not be able to readily perceive it, but we are in a way hitting our head against a wall. And that is that Saturnian boundary that there is. We might be constantly like colliding or coming up against this wall, and then we realize eventually that along this wall extends. It's not just this like tiny wall that we keep finding. It's a large wall that we might be asked to examine and traverse. And like looking at that wall is a journey itself. It's not like a Saturnian quest. It might feel more like wandering, like you're kind of lost. It's a little dark. It's kind of hard to see. But then you find, oh, that bird agrees with me, I see. You find this threshold and this very wall, this very boundary that you've been smacking your head up against. You find this threshold and a dweller there that asks you to examine. The dweller of the threshold, for those of you who may not know, is a composite symbol of karma. It is a composite symbol of our actions and their consequences. Yeah. And
I'm seeing the full. Yeah, I'm seeing the full.
Cool. And it asks us, hey, look at this. Look at this thing that keeps happening over and over again. What are you doing about it? Are you creating this in some way? With the 12th house, we find that we often are creating those situations. And that is that very
that we create our own boundaries.
Exactly. And our own restrictions, our own chains, our own limitations, how we are limiting ourselves. And then not just that part, but stepping through that threshold into a new unknown territory. And it might be dark. It might be dark like the previous side of the threshold, but this darkness is of the unknown. Now that we're so familiar with Saturn, we almost want it. We almost want to go deeper into the dark unknown. And that's why Saturn is so far out and so far reaching that it might be seen as kind of strange or a little like, woo-woo. But Saturn itself is very esoteric. It's a seeker. It wants us to be seekers and go out and seek into what is dark and hidden, or what might be called occult by some people. But wants us to look at the dark, hidden, hard to see places so we can integrate them responsibly, maturely, and with quality. It's a quality control. So that 12th house is one reason why it's difficult sometimes.
And so to wrap that back into Sag, how is that?
Yeah. Yeah. So that is going to be asked. That's one of the pressure points of this zit.
Mm-hmm.
How might we be how might we be self-sabotaging ourselves from seeing the divine in the mundane, of seeing those messages that we might be receiving from the divine, not distorting them, not seeing them through like this really like. Have you ever looked at something through a lens?
What kind of lens?
Just
Just
a
any lens.
just any lens, and just seeing
Yeah.
how like it can have like these little warps and these distortions.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of like looking in water. And the moon is, the rules the first water sign, Cancer. So the moon might have a way of distorting things or warping them a little bit, but those
Uh-huh.
very little like ticks and those distortions invite us to have a more secure and deeper and intimate understanding with them. Wherever the moon is, that's a way to look at the moon too. She's a sorceress, and she wants us to look beyond the veil. Both the moon and Saturn do. All the planets do in a way, because astrology is a spiritual discipline, and that is the hill I will die on.
Yes.
Anyways, um, it
Yes.
is it is wanting us to really integrate how we might be self-sabotaging ourselves in Sagittarius risings. How might you be self-sabotaging yourself and seeing the divine in the mundane? And also, a bit of a pressure might be coming from your romantic, creative relationships. How you are expressing yourself, creating something into being, seeing the beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
perceiving the beautiful, pursuing the beautiful, the truthful, and the good. The Platonic triad, where beauty is a point in that triad, and all of those things are one. Beauty and is good and truthful, and truth is good and beautiful, and so on and so forth. All the various combinations. But Sagittarius risings, your creeds set you on fire to
Mm-hmm.
continue forward. So that is really going to that it's going to come to a head in that third house, and you're going to want to examine those messages. Are they just divine? I'm sorry, are they just mundane everyday messages, or are they divine messages, or are they coming from
Hidden in the mundane.
hidden in the mundane? Yes, sir.
That's you, Sag. No, I felt that. I felt that.
Mhm.
I want to say thank you. Wow. Definitely hit the thumbs up. Hit the likes button. I'm gonna give Andre a quick breather. We come back and then we hit this Sagittarius in the first house. So here a little 40-second breather, and let y'all go ahead and take another little examination of this event that we're running with the early bird coming on the 23rd. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So again, you have that opportunity to go ahead and hit the registration. That said, we're going to move into Capricorn. Excuse me, I said Aquarius before. Capricorn, Mars conjunct Pluto. Mars for you is transiting your second house. Okay, we all know you like Earth on Earth. Okay, so that's something interesting to kind of put down. I know you may be wanting to think money right away, but we'll see what Andre actually has to say. And then ruler of Mars is your fourth house and your 11th house, which is actually really interesting to me because I never considered that it's your fourth house ruler. And maybe that we get some understanding of why you exalt in Mars. Okay, so that might be when we talk about this. So let's see what's going on with what Andre has to say.
So the second house is our material wealth, how we amass material wealth, our resources, all those things. Also, it is our internal resources too.
Facts.
It's the way that we are what's we talked about this briefly. What skills, what special resources do we have that we are bringing to the table?
Mm-hmm.
Not just as who we are, but like what we do, how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
That is really, that might be coming to a head again. That karmic zit might be forming there in that second house. That is really going to, it's going to pop, and it's going to make you examine Capricorn risings, the gunk that you might have around what it means to have those skills. And man, Capricorn is like, it's all about the skill set, all about the methodology, having the resources and the planning and the wherewithal and the yeah, that ability to really make things happen. And with what we do, so just physically and also like internally, is going to be
Mm.
really important here. And that pressure point from that's going to pop that zit might be coming from your 4th and 11th houses. So again, your 4th house, your 4th house of home and family and roots and
Mm.
foundation, and that privacy, where you came from, your ancestors, your the psychological influence of your parents and your ancestors and your authority
Mm.
figures.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that subconscious conditioning, that childhood conditioning that you might have received. The big thing for the 4th house, we things that we don't even realize sometimes, that we think because we were raised to think them, and we have to
Mm.
really examine that. And then the 11th house of joy of Jupiter, the friends, benefactors, gurus, teachers, blessings, gifts, and again, those organizations of people that you join, that you hang out with, your dreams, wishes, your aspirations,
Mm-hmm.
the house of good spirit. And yeah, that Jupiterian really, I'm sorry, that Jupiterian influence in the 11th house is very, very prevalent here right now. So that pressure that you, of the kinds of organizations that you want to join, the kind of teachers and gurus that you might follow, um, how you accept that torch of that guru might be
Mm.
all coming to a head in how you are manifesting that as a resource, your own personal resource, your internal resources, your external resources, how you gather wealth. And that coming to it's interesting having this transit here in the second house, this karmic zit coming to a head in this second house, because like I feel like this is a really like cathartic placement and transformative placement. And it's interesting how that might be, how our internal resources, how we bring our internal resources and external resources might be transforming itself.
Mm.
So yeah, what do you think, man?
I'm hearing with Capricorn to remember that the home doesn't start in the 4th house. It gets conditioned in the 4th house. It really starts in the second house,
Mhm.
right? Like
Wow.
from a foundation,
Yeah.
from like, okay, the home's not built yet. You got to buy land, right? And so Capricorn,
Right.
I know you like buying land, especially if you have the money and the resources for it. Like that's like
Mhm.
dream, right? To construct the real estate, to construct a grand commercial mall that your family owns for the next 45 plus decades, right? That is the foundation of your generational wealth. And so Caps, you may be feeling that pressure when you think Aquarius 11 house large grand dreams. You may be feeling that pressure to actually share what is unique about your talent,
Mhm.
right? That you took 4th house transit, okay, with the ruler Mars. The war general is like, can you sit in retreat to shift, move, kind of like Andre said, look with the moon lens through these little bubbles and kind of distort your view even a little
Mhm.
bit to open
Mhm.
up your imagination, distort the view so that I see and focus on this. Probably one of
Mhm.
the reasons why you do well with the exaltation in Mars. You
Mhm.
can boom, distort the view, bring the imagination with the practical reality of what will it take to construct X, Y, and Z, 11th house, long-term aspiration and dream. And so you know, when I'm hearing for you over the next 20 years, Capricorn, I'm really hearing like you are going to be, if this is your transit, one of the main people that can actually create the generational wealth that everyone talks about. And it's actually and literally starting from the ground. It's starting from before the home is built, right? You're going to the root. And that's one of the things I like to think of with the second house. Like, this is the real roots, at least here on earth, right? And so that's kind of the only other thing that really came through for me. And it's like, as a part of that, are you willing to reach out to other professionals that are involved in different groups, not only in real estate, but I'm thinking like city planners. This may be something as simple as in your own private time, behind the veil, researching with city planners or talking to city planners in your hometown and being or whatever the place that you want to build. Let's say if I'm in Mexico, I want to build here. Boom, I'm manifesting in my imagination, fourth house, the right group and associations that gets me connected with a city planner so that I can understand what's the projection of the growth in this city. What areas are good to build land on? Why don't people build land on this side, but why do they build it on the east side of the city? Oh, the city's sinking on the left in this particular territory, but on the right, something about the terrain is actually stabilizing and all the cities building east, but not west. Okay, Cap, I'm feeling like it's a lot of like this long-term systematic planning with the Aquarius, where again, it's a 20-year transit with at least Pluto and Aquarius, 20 years. So that's a long time. And if you're looking to do something at this root and foundational level, this isn't as simple as having the money, right? You have to literally connect with people, with groups, with organizations, and you do have that natural innate talent to plan, to create method, right? To do the rituals and get grounded in the habits that will step by step, brick by brick, allow you to climb this impossible mountain that no one else in your family has been able to do.
Wow. Yeah. And just that, again, that ability to plan and to acquire resources, like how might Capricorn risings be doing that at an external and internal level too? You know, like you said city planners, I think in pictures, you know, so like, yes, literal city planners, and also the of the planning of your own mental city, your own mental city planning, because like, you know, Aquarius is an air sign, so it's all about the mind. So yeah, that those mental resources that are coming, that you really examine.
And I feel like that does come right back into like that fourth house imagination, right? Like, if I think about it for myself, like I literally in the city I'm in, I went on YouTube and I looked up mansions in this particular city.
Sure.
Literally, like I want to invest in real estate. I just looked up mansions and I'm just looking up like where are these areas at? And I did less of I went more Andre's route because I'm a very in the mind type person too. I went Andre's route and I'm like, look, I just want to see what's possible. I don't really care right now for the details of who do I need to talk to or what needs to happen, but I want a mental image. I want to see like, wait, I'm looking at some of these properties. I'm like, we're kind of in a subtropical climate. I'm like, a lot of places around here, there's not a lot of green in nature, but these mansions that I'm looking at on YouTube in this city, they got grass. Yeah, they have trees. I'm like, where is this part of the town? Because most of the town is concrete and there's not a lot of parks, right? And so this is kind of helping me understand, oh, wow, so it is possible to have parks here. It is possible to have the nature because somebody did it. And so that's expanding my imagination from these two earth energies, right? So again, I'm not a Capricorn rising, but depending on what chart you're looking at in my astrology, I have a lot of Capricorn energy. And so again, it just depends on what chart you look at. Right, there's so many. I guarantee all these zodiacs exist in one of your charts, no doubt. So thank you. I appreciate that, Andre. Let's move into Aquarius, one of the stars of the show, the main star. All right, Aquarius, Mars conjunct Pluto is transiting your first house. I'm at 114. Okay, 114. Aquarius is transiting your first house. Mars is ruling your third house and your 10th house. And I feel like this is important because this is happening for everybody. That ruler in that third and that 10th. And I've had a lot of ideas about this over the time we had our first live until now. And then now Pluto, this high octave energy, right? Who wants you to get to the truth, willing to disinfect anything in order to get you there, is running your 10th house. Okay, Andre, what you got for us?
Wow. Having Pluto in the first house for the next 20 years is Jesus. I love it. It's very volcanic. It's very transformative, and it's going to be a slow burn. But you might have had a little fire come up in there with Mars transiting through here and conjoining Pluto, and that karmic zit that we keep talking about is coming to a head in your first house of yourself, of who you are, of how you show up, who you are as a person, the health, the vitality, the just the physical body and the psychology itself too. The first house being the gateway between, or the nexus point between, the spiritual and the mundane, the physical and the unphysical, the corporeal and the incorporeal, that nexus point there. That's really, I think that's really going to make us examine, Aquarius risings, how we show up, really, who we are as a person. Aquarius is, well, let's do a little recap. What's going on with Aquarius? What is Aquarius in general? And
good question.
Yeah, I think that might be.
I think at least while you find your research, I feel like Aquarius is big brain, think tank.
Oh yeah.
Right. And again, learning how to circulate that. But when I see the first house here, again, there's like, okay, well, what's the new personality coming in for your next 20-year cycle of circulation?
Yeah.
Right.
Circulation. It's great.
Right. Like you're now circulating a brand new conception because why? You're brand new. And so there's going to be a confusing period, in my personal opinion, as Pluto is one of these energies that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen at the snap of a finger until the finger snaps. Right? When the finger snaps, it's done. When Pluto implodes, it's over. There's no more thinking to be done. Like what happened? Look at the thumbs up. What happens. But that snap is a 20-year snap.
Yeah.
Right? Mars being this aggressive energy is a lot of that force it takes for you to kind of get through the initial brainstorming steps. And then we have this Venus coming in very shortly after on the conjunction, if not here already, I think on the 14th. I don't know what day it is, to be honest.
Very, very soon.
Right? Very soon. Now it's like, okay, the war general has taken the initial actions on the battlefield, looking to keep his soldiers safe, but also morale high. Great. Now Venus coming, we're now valuing what that war general has did for us. Yeah. Right? And we're starting to, accumulate more material resources that helps that general on the battlefield. You may now be getting supplies on that battlefield. You're now getting dropped crates of valuable assets and possessions, even if they're just more ideas. Yeah. Even if it's just a breath of fresh air as you step through this first house, right? It's like, boom, hey, remember when Andre and Pernell were talking about that junk drawer? It's back. Here is what we've accumulated. Here's our first initial assessment after the first strike. If Mars, that first strike coming through, boom, conjunct, planets crash. Okay, here is what you have to utilize. And these are only the most valuable things that's going to get you to work through this transformation of the self. But I'll bring it back to you.
Yes. Thank you. I love that. That's dead on. This Aquarius is just a very, very it is beautiful. It's hard to I will admit it's one of the signs that's harder for me to understand, because it's like it's so aloof, and it's weird because I have Saturn in the first house. So like I should be intimately associated with it, and I'm realizing as I've done so much research with it with Aquarius season, but I just wanted to share some notes that I found with our beautiful Aquarius risings. So part of who we might be Aquarius risings, striving towards a certain golden age. Whether we do so by going forward and being progressive, and coming up and conceptualizing this sci-fi utopia of like everyone having a place, ideologies, beautiful, lofty ideologies being followed by everyone to create a cohesive society, a golden age, really. Mental, intellectual, physical golden age. All of these things too. The ability to work together. The ability to somehow Capricorns too, being Saturn signs, Aquarians are seen as heretics, and I say this with so much love because they have been so intimately focused on the status quo and what it means to maintain the status quo, and also break away from that and just be done with it and be like, I really have to cross this threshold and go my own way, and it might mean going off into the dark unknown, really far out, really quote unquote weird, and it might make me be seen as an outcast or a blasphemer or a heretic for doing my own thing. But that's what Aquarius is all about. It's just about discovering it for itself. It's a scientist. It's that ability to see life empirically, not in a sterile way. That's a challenge with Aquarius, not sterilizing life, but examining the phenomenon of what it means to be alive and be a human, be a brain operating a body, like making it do things.
Right.
And all the things that entails. I really feel like Aquarius is, yes, it is about the socialization and the communication, but it's also, again, we have that Saturnian polarity, the isolation and the solitude and the contemplation by yourself, the examination by yourself, really meditating on that. That's another thing that Saturn rules, that meditation, that contemplation, concentration, is all those Aquarian aspects somehow might be feeling a lot of pressure. They might some kind of karmic zit might be forming over them, some kind of zit in general of like having to examine the unconscious material of Aquarius in a Martian way, an inflammatory way. That inflammatory disease might be like coming out, not disease, I'm sorry, that inflammatory condition might be coming out and popping, and you might just be asked to look at the unconscious material of who you are, in short. And that pressure point is coming again from that junk drawer, seeing the divine in the mundane, the communications, messages, relays, back and forth correspondence that we might receive. Also from the 10th house. What did you say the 10th house was earlier that I really liked? Can you say that one more time?
The life system.
Life system. Oh my God. Yes. And I mentioned this earlier, the praxis, how we orient ourselves, our framework of how we do life. And that is very, very, very important. A lot of people don't realize that worldview is so important on how we perceive life. It's also very integral in magical practices. The worldview, natural magic, is very, very tied with with our life system.
No, 1,000%.
Yeah, thank you. And so you might be those pressure points from that life system, the career, yes, the vocation, the calling, what have you, the life system, the actions, the notoriety, the reputation. What are you known for? What are you recognized for? How do you receive accolades? What is your definition of climbing to the top? What is the top, quote unquote, for you? That pressure point, and also that junk drawer, that subconscious place that we might not see, being the third house, being the joy of the moon, that lens that we might be asked to look through again, that might be distorted, might be a little warped in some ways, that might magnify things in one place and contract things in another. Why is that happening? that immediate environment, like what veils is the moon asking us to look behind there in the third house of the immediate environment, the mental environment, the short travels, the distance, the communications, the messages, the siblings, the cousins, those kinds of things that, you know, are there, but we might not be paying attention to in a little bit of a way. How can we remember the divine and the mundane through our life system, and how will that come to a head in who we are?
Sure. Yeah. Honestly, everything that he said, and I feel like before we move to Pisces, the only thing I feel like, at least that may be important to say in this moment, is that Pluto was scorpionic in nature, and it's about disintegration, especially of the ego. Ooh. Right? As the next level up from Leo as a fixed sign.
Yes.
And so Scorpio is that middle bridge that allows Aquarians to be Aquarians. Like Aquarians without Scorpio, they're not really allowed to let go of the petty form of our egoic expression, craving praise, right? So Aquarians, here's what I'm really saying. The 10th house in this scorpionic planet, aka Pluto, is asking you to disintegrate your ego. Specifically, the ego that is associated with the id, or your primal needs.
Oh.
Because Aquarius, you are the super ego, which is about understanding others. That's why the sun is your 7th house. That's why light shines on others. Sun ruling your 7th house. So my point is, you have a completely new and unadulterated primal need that it's time to get acquainted with, and you're going to receive ideas, 3rd house, that are not yours. And so when you understand that these ideas are just floating in the sky, and then you have the ability to just grab it with your hands and look at this concept and telecommunicate back and forth with it, but realize you're not telecommunicating anything. You're just observing what the telecommunications are. What will happen, you will receive your next assignment, your next mission, your next vocation. It will come to you. It will land in your lap. You will be given the entire system. It's like a business in a box. So you open the box, the business is complete. This is God's business. And all you have to do is allow the disintegration of your ego, those last and final parts coming from that 12th to the 1st that says, okay, hey, look, am I willing to disintegrate and understand that this is my next personality I've been assigned? This is my new character. I am just a character in a video game. And I get to watch this unfold. And I liked my old character, but this new character, if I disintegrate my attachment to what my accolades were, who I was in business, who I was as I climbed the social ladder prior, if I let it go, I will have a new ladder to climb that is actually more pure to who I am. And I've been waiting on this. Why? Because Uranus has been shaking things up with my natural abilities, shaking it, showing me, hey, you have a different natural ability. If you let go of this old fixated form of what it was, you might have been great at this. You probably would have been the best. But we got a new one on the horizon, the 1st house, rising. A new one. And it's like, hey, sun's shining. So can you step out and understand that you have a new primal need? And if you get into this new primal need, your ego will allow you to then shift from the primal need to the super ego or the collective need. Primal need, collective need. Primal need, collective need. But that requires a disintegration. And so that's what I'm kind of getting as a last step for Aquarius. And obviously we can go in on that forever.
I just love that. I just want to say like one really quick thing.
Please.
I think it's so important to touch on the fact that, I mean, this Pluto transit is such a huge transit for Aquarius risings, obviously, because it's going to be in the 1st house. So Scorpio, I'm sorry. Pluto is asking us to examine the unconscious material. It asks us to examine the unconscious material of whatever sign it's in and really look at it. So, how we might, I think that comes into my brain as like how we might express those signs unconsciously or unskillfully in a way. How we might be experiencing them in, as opposed to conscious integrated ways, unconscious unintegrated ways. So a way that Aquarius can be, and I don't mean to pick on Aquariuses in general. Every single sign in the zodiac and every planet has a skillful and unskillful expression. Some people decide to use different adjectives or verbiage for that. I don't like to pull punches. I try to acknowledge when I'm expressing myself unskillfully and try to express myself skillfully as a result. But unskillful expressions of Aquarius might be being way too detached, being way too cold, like kind
Facts.
of a mad scientist vibe, just like really playing with the fabric of what it means to be alive, what it means to be human. Like, this is obviously not a literal manifestation, although it can be, I guess. But I think of like animal testing, of just like how like really detached it is, how the coldness of the scientific mind can really come through there, and it doesn't really matter if animals are being tested on or hurt or hurt for the long term. That detachment of Aquarians, just to like be so all the way up here at this 30,000-foot view that they don't see what's happening, like with the with everyone else, with the collective.
Right.
It's
Can't
about
really
the being
serve. Can't really
exactly.
serve. Yeah.
Exactly. It's being in
Yeah.
the collective and like all the way above the collective too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So examining that unconscious material, examining like how we don't see the spark of life because it's opposite Leo, how we don't see the spark of life in the body and the physical human condition, in the mind. Not necessarily like an earth way, but in the mental condition, we don't see the divine. We don't see that our thoughts are not just random from chaotic, abyss nowhere. Our thoughts come from somewhere. Where do they come from? And I won't answer that now because that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I hear it. I hear
Yeah.
it. I think the one simple word, whether you can get behind that or not, it can mean different things for each person, is God.
Oh,
Like,
yep.
that at the end of the day, it's like, look, like this
Yep.
thought, that's Aquarius's biggest, weakest, in personal opinion. And I have Aqua energy. It's attaching to the idea as if it was yours rather than God. Period.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
and that ownership doesn't allow the Aquarians to share it
Mm,
because they're like, I need credit for this. And they try to pretend sometimes that they don't care for that. But that's what I feel is being disintegrated and a new personality
yes.
stepping in. It's like, you can no longer afford to care for that. So we
Yeah.
have Pisces, and I will give a heads up. I have in 13 minutes, I have another live that's scheduled. I just want to give that heads up. So in 13
Okay.
minutes. But here we go. I
That's
have
fun.
Pisces coming right here. And now Pisces, you're running through the 12th house. Okay, this is your transit. This is a very familiar house for you. Mars is the ruler of your second house and the 9th house. Okay, another house you're akin to being Sagittarius, right? Night ruling by Jupiter, if you will. And then Pluto is ruling your 9th house. So, Andre, from Hermits Path Astrology, what do you have for us on Pisces, rising Pisces moon?
Man. Yeah, this transit taking place in the 12th house is again, us being asked to examine the unconscious material of the unconscious. I feel like that's just really asking us to dive deep down in there and ask us to examine and disinfect how we might be sabotaging ourselves, how we might be undoing ourselves, the mental suffering that we are experiencing, whether by our own hand or by the hand of hidden enemies. And the hidden enemies, just like Pernell said in our first live, the hidden enemies are also our own thoughts, our own subconscious thoughts, our own subconscious attachments and triggers. So that 12th house, it's again that that wall that we keep smacking our heads into and that we keep coming up against, asking us to examine the wall. Oh, there's a wall here. Walk all the way down the wall. We might wander for a while, be a little lost, not really know where to go, but eventually we find this threshold. We find this threshold of the threshold and the dweller of the threshold, where the composite symbol of our actions resides. We asked to examine that, really examine that, because the plutonic energies is like making us. It's like in your face right there. It's the gunk, the zit that we've been talking about coming to a head in the 12th house. Man, that it might be very inflammatory with Mars, might be very aggressive. It might be revitalizing. Mars might be asking us to really delve into both. Pluto and Mars ask you to dig deep somewhere, wherever they are. Dig deep and come back up with a fire, with a passion. So examining our subconscious blind spots is going to be, in our mental suffering, how it's been perpetuated, how we've been perpetuating it, perhaps as Pisces risings. And that is coming from who we are. What resources we bring to the table, whether like internally or externally, what skills we have, what resources we have, how we attract resources, how we generate resources and wealth, whether internal or external wealth. And also, this is coming from the 9th house. The 9th house is a very beautiful place. It is a place of divinity. It is a place of divination, dreams, visions, mysticism, philosophy, spirituality, morality, ethics, things that we do in the temple, things that how we act in the temple, how we perceive deity, the long quests that we might take to unfamiliar, unknown places to find deity, where it is. It's this long, overarching character arc that we are striving towards. The 9th house is the joy of the sun, so it has very much so something to do with how we are striving towards an ideal image of something, whatever that ideal image might be. But in the 9th house specifically, it's usually associated with a spirituality and philosophy and mysticism. And yes, astrology. Yes, those things that are messages directly from the divine. So divination, tarot, oracular practices, like these sorts of things, very, very important. That's one of the pressure points there. Might be examining how that is influencing our self-sabotage. Our influence, our conception of deity might be influencing our self-sabotage. Might be asked to examine that and illuminate that. And that pressure point of those pressure points of the personal resources, personal wealth, internal or external, personal skills, what we bring to the table. And that conception of deity, how we pursue deity, how we see it, how we see authority in our life, our own personal mysticism, our own personal philosophy, our own personal spiritual practice, what that looks like. And Pisces rising, it's very, very important to have a spiritual practice. So yeah, that 12th house transit, man, it might be a doozy, but Saturn, being the joy of the 12th house, asks us to examine those subconscious sabotages and sit with them and meditate with them and integrate them practically into our lives.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I hear that. And forgive me for this. I'm over here prepping some avocado.
Go for it, dude.
I realize I won't have the time to get a bite before the next live. So, but no, what I'm hearing with this that I feel like is important, kind of going off what you said, mantras.
Oh,
I'm hearing mantras. I'm hearing, Vedic remedies. I'm hearing getting back in tune with God, but understanding
where did you get disconnected from source?
Mm.
And how did your disconnection from source start? Again, from the early second house childhood, before the fourth house, right? The early second house foundation, where this may not be somebody that you actually know. They probably weren't even alive. This is probably your great grandfather, great grandmother, who you never met, but they were part of the original foundation, right? So we kind of talked about with Capricorn. They're part of the foundation that built you.
Yeah.
That before you were conceptualized, before you were built, you were still in your little 12th house bubble, right? You were still part of that 9th house joy of somebody else in your family lineage that was just outside of the physical reality and just conceptualizing, well, what is this ideal mission that we have, right? And then you kind of came later. But through that, your family at that root level, they were Catholics.
Right? I was literally raised Catholic.
You see what I'm saying? They were Catholics. They were Protestants. They were riding on horses with red flags. And you feel me? Like, they were crusaders.
Yeah.
And so they had a belief in, well, this is what God is. Right? And so you weren't even alive, but you don't understand why you hate religion so much. You don't know why you hate Jesus or getting behind the message. And maybe there's great information in the Bible for you, but you're rejecting it so deeply because of these boundaries created, right?
Yes.
Or vice versa, you don't know the same thing why, you know, for whatever the religion. But religion is a huge thing I'm getting, where don't continue to let this boundary that is self-inflicted at this point, because you're wise enough to be yourself, to continue to affect your belief and stop you from chanting a mantra, chanting who and whatever. It doesn't matter the religion, right? Chanting with the Buddhist monks or with, you know, Jesus in church, whatever it is, or, you know, chanting the way the Egyptians did to Sun God Ra, right? Like, you pick and choose your sect. But Pisces, this is what I'm ultimately getting. It's like, if you can't find a way to get behind God in that way, right now I have right here, I'm looking at it, I have mantras that I've written only off of my astrology placements. Like, literally, there's like 15 lines, and I say this daily. And I said it for the last like 4 years. But then I realized, like, maybe like a year ago, I took them down, I put them away. And then life got really freaking hard over the last 2-3 months. And I put them back up just over the last 2-3 months. And I went right back to that. And it was like, this I can't say is God's mantra. I can't say this is a religious mantra. I can't say this is a mantra that this is my own mantra. It's my own foundational mantra that, from my mind, it's like this came from my astrology. And keywords for my astrology, my own natal chart. And that was something that at a point 4 years ago, it was the only thing I can get behind.
Yeah.
It was the only God I can get behind. It's the only father figure that I can trust in. Thumbs up. It was the only one. But it got me to where I needed to be.
Yeah.
So,
oh my God. I just love that.
That kind of, that gave you some insight. You know, like I said, do forgive me. I do got this live coming up in 2 more minutes.
Yeah, my bad. We got talking.
But it was a pleasure.
Yes, it was.
You know, when the time comes and you want to do something like this again, definitely do it. For those of you watching, hit the thumbs and the likes button. I'm going to go ahead and show his Instagram one more time. It's in the chat. It was earlier up. All right. Go ahead and follow him on Instagram. I want to see at least some people in there. All right. Reach out. Follow his content. You're going to hear him say X, Y, and Z transit. Let's talk about it. And that's when you know you go in. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Andre, I really do appreciate you. Normally I'd see you backstage, but like I said, I got this next one.
I understand, bro. Handle your business.
Love you, dude. I appreciate you.
Love you too, man.
All right.